It's time for Chai and Chat. Chai and Chat.
Hello, everyone. And we have a guest today again, Ranjit. So super excited, as usual. So tell us all about our lovely guest.
So, Daya, we're not going to let you speak just yet. I'm going to give you a bit of an intro. I know all about you, but everybody else doesn't. So I'm going to tell the world about the fantastic Daya Bhatti. And lots of people know you already because you're actually quite well known on the circuit. So Daya Bhatti is a contemporary multidisciplinary artist whose practice explores culture, identity and storytelling through immersive art and installation. So you've been inspired by South Asian maximalism, diaspora stories and the connection between past, present and the future. You use colour, pattern and layers of material to create meaningful cultural experiences through your work. Now, I know because I've seen your work at all these places. You've had work exhibited at the New Art Gallery Warsaw, Herbert Art Gallery and Museum, Wolverhampton Grand Theatre, also the Wolverhampton Art Gallery as well, I believe. And you've actually got work in collections at the Manchester Museum, your beautiful cart that I've seen there in the South Asian Permanent Exhibition, and also Preston Parker Museum. So welcome, Daya. Welcome to Chai and Chat.
Oh, thank you for having me.
How did that sound listening to that? We always ask everyone that because I know you provided us with some information, but it's always interesting hearing it back.
It's quite, I don't know, sometimes I don't really deep it, but I think it's quite nice to hear it back and reflect that I have done things.
Yeah, I'm just looking at all the places you've exhibited, and I've looked at your website, and I want to say you're great. I think you it's not just multidisciplinary, it's multimedia. Looking at that, and Ranjit will know I love fashion. So of all the things that you did, your art, your illustrations, and obviously the beautiful rickshaw decorating, I thought the fashion items were amazing.
Yeah, Sundari likes anything sparkly and colourful and things like that. So yeah, explain a little bit more for Sundari.
Yeah, so I think like the fashion, I've always been into fashion as well, to be fair. I love all the I don't know, always looking for unique pieces. But I started just painting on denim and creating these kind of limited edition pieces, but also I've started to reflect on kind of how like what we wear holds a lot of value and stories. And you know, I mean, even like in like saris and things like that, everything's been made by hand, especially in like South Asian countries. And I think that kind of slowly kind of came through my practice, where I started using clothing as a canvas. But yeah, I've always been interested in pushing boundaries and like experimenting with my canvas. So that's kind of where that.
I love the fact that you've got these beautiful South Asian women imprinted. They're painted. And I don't know whether you've seen them on the jackets are wonderful. And I love the sari with the tree, the orange with the beautiful tree, and the cool jeans with the woman's face on one side. And it's also just not a face. It's got all the piercings and it's wonderful. I'm looking at that and think, oh, I'd like one of those items.
I've seen all of these things in person, Sundari.
Oh, I'm so jealous. How come you're not wearing one of those jackets, Ranjit, is what I want to know.
One size fits most, I think. It's not quite my size. I think I need to slim down a bit. But no, it is impressive, and the fine detail is what I think is really good. But before we carry on, we do like to have our guests introduce like a poem or a quote or something. So, Daya, you've chosen a quote, but we're not going to ask you to say it in Hindi. You're going to give us an English translation.
Yeah, so the quote I picked is from the film Om Shanti Om. And it's saying, if you really desire something from the heart, then like the whole universe kind of conspires towards getting you that. And I think it's something that's resonated with me since I first watched the film when I was a child. So I think or maybe I've always just been a dreamer. But for me, it's like believing in a vision and something so deeply, and just willing to follow that path, even when you can't see where it's leading. So yeah, and I think when you're truly connected to something, like things just start aligning.
So just on that note, I mean, if we can just expand that a little bit, because the first question we were going to ask you was about your journey and what led you to becoming an artist. And you just said this sort of obviously you watch this later on, but it's made you reflect on your journey. So tell us a little bit more about that from childhood and getting into the arts.
I think like from childhood, I've always enjoyed the arts, whether that's like, I think our culture is so creative anyway, so I was very connected as a child, like through the dance and the clothes and like the colour and all the creativity in the music. But then it was like at school, I had like quite an organic journey. Like I went through and did art, and I was quite academic. So when I decided that I was going to like do a creative degree, it was like a bit of pushback. But it happened very organically. I feel like I always knew I wanted a creative career. I didn't know it was going to be being an artist. I didn't know it might have been in fashion, but I ended up just kind of, I didn't want to lose that magic that I felt when creating. So that's why I think I just made the decision one day.
You mentioned about your culture and your background. You know, there's lots of colours in that. So tell us a little bit about what is your background? What is your ancestry?
Yeah, so I'm Punjabi, so north of India. I've been to India not that much, but I have been quite a few times. I've been recently, but my grandparents and all my family have migrated and live here. So home feels here, but still feel a connection to India. And we go back and visit temples. I think for me, both my grandmas have been that kind of bridge and that anchor. So it feels like when I go back, it's not as like not familiar, because it's like they kind of have not instill, but like just share those values and the culture and the religion, and just helped us connect.
So my family are from the Punjab as well, and I'm Punjab, but Sundari is Malaysian. So there are similarities in that, in terms of the culture and the colourfulness of it all. Sundari, what would you say?
Yes, well, my ancestry is Sri Lankan Jaffna Tamil, but my grandparents migrated to Malaysia. But that idea of very colourful, you know, the Kanjipuram saris that they wear in the south, and the jewellery. Getting married you have very bright colours that you get married in. So that's why I'm very attracted to what, you know, the sort of design that you've created. I love that multicoloured vision of everything. And because being in Malaysia, I suppose in Sri Lanka and South India, it's warm, it's bright. And in the sun, these colours actually look even more vibrant.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful that you were born here and have been brought up here, but your attraction to those influences are really strong. What I want to ask is, if somebody was designing in Malaysia or in India or Sri Lanka, the way they design would be probably slightly different from you, because you've been grounded in being from the Black country, I should say. So how do you think that's different, if you've seen any differences?
I think like I do have like a Western, like contemporary influence within my work. I mean, even the way that, like, I don't know, just like my portrayal of women and things like that. It's maybe like inspired by like some of the fashion and things here, like the way I am, basically a mix of both. So I think that's kind of what kind of feeds through my work. And I think here, like I explore a lot about like kind of like being in between those two worlds, rather than like, because I do feel a connection to India, but it's really different to someone who might be living there.
Yes, I see what you mean, because sometimes I left home when I was 18, and sometimes when you leave, life sort of stops then in a certain way. Your snapshot of what you leave behind. So sometimes I'm surprised when I go back and think and see how things have moved on, and think, well, that's a bit modern. How come they're doing things that I didn't think they would? And I've noticed some of your interpretations are a little bit cheeky. So, but I do think that cheekiness is also apparent in art and fashion in Malaysia or in India. It's just I haven't caught up with it. That's my surprise. And the other point I want to ask, just to ask you, what do you think about cultural appropriation in fashion? Because that's been a big thing.
Yeah, I think I feel quite strongly about that. I think it's been quite a lot, like the Scandinavian scarf and things like that have been coming up. I think it's the long history of like how our culture has been quite minimized and overlooked, and now it's kind of taking what resonates. And like, yeah, I think, and for me, I think personally, like growing up, you feel like I didn't feel like I belonged, and it was like you're seen as like uncool and the other, and now it's becoming a trend and popular to do these things, whereas they have a lot of significance beyond the aesthetic. I think that's where there's a bit of a...
You said, sorry to interrupt, you said about the Scandinavian scarf. Is this like the chiffon junni or whatever, but they're calling it something else?
Yeah.
So it sounds more acceptable. Is that what it is? Is that what that is?
Yeah, they've started implementing that into fashion, and I think it's been a long history of it, really. Like even in Coachella, like the Bindis, I mean, it's all looked at from a fashion kind of place of fashion, but it's not. There's so much significance to it. Like I did a collection. One of my first ones was paintings about adornment and the significance beyond just being a piece of like jewelry or like a piece of clothing. I think, and that's because there is a lot of like religious significance, cultural, regional, and there's so many layers to it.
I think that kind of brings me back. I mean, there's been this great controversy about Zendaya wearing this piece of jewelry that harks back to Iranian tradition. So yours kind of marries in it. Leaving that aside because I don't want to comment on that. But for me, you see, if I wear Western clothing and I've put we call it a pottu, you call it a bindi, I put that and adornment, but I'm in jeans, everybody seems to think that's acceptable. I think it's cute. But if somebody else does it, to what extent do you feel that's appropriation? That's because I might wear a Chinese top, and in Malaysia, because it's very multicultural, we all wear different types of clothes with. I never know quite where this is, because you and I have had this discussion about food, haven't we, Ranjit? But now in fashion, it's a big thing that people are using symbols of other nations, native nations as well.
We had an episode a few weeks ago where we looked at roti or flatbread. It was like flatbread is like the new thing. People are calling it. It's like, hold on, no, it's a roti. Do you know what I mean? Or a chapati. And like it becomes acceptable. And like you say, from when you were younger, you said, I can't remember what you said now, but something about how it wasn't seen as trendy or whatever. Yeah. And it's almost like it has to be something else for it to be acceptable. I mean,
and my response to that was, if it's educating people about it, even if they hear about it in some other way, then they want to learn about it. It's, for example, I'm always all about talking about what's present at the moment. Again, it's the Odyssey. Everybody has so many opinions about it, but what it has done is make people go and buy the book and read or have a discussion. So even if we're having discussions about the bindi or the shawl, or isn't that good to start that conversation? What do you think?
I think it's good to start a conversation if you're actually referencing that it's from this place and that it's not just a new invention that you kind of come up with, because they do have a long history. And I think because of the past of it being like minimized and overlooked, and just the way India's been framed, like as and South Asian countries in general have been framed, I think when it becomes like, it kind of becomes like even with the Scandinavian scarf, if they wanted to say it's a dupatta, there's nothing wrong with people wearing it, because for me then it's becoming like, as long as it comes from a place of appreciation, it's not that nobody can wear it. It's more the fact that if it has got this history to it, then why is it being reframed? I mean, you've just mentioned the roti, but it's also like with chai lattes and all these things that are coming, like they've just been rebranded basically, and to suit like today, which I think that's it.
I do like a chai latte though. I mean, our podcast is called Chai and Chat, and actually, you know, in Punjabi it would be cha and not chai, and people say, oh, actually, it should be cha. But anyway, we had that discussion, didn't we, Sundari, when we first started this? Like, because in Malaysia they call tea.
We do have an iced tea, which is just like chai latte, and if they call it that, that's fine. When they come to Malaysia, they'll know exactly what to ask for because it's already available. we did it first, but I'm not fussed as long as we're enjoying it.
Yeah, today it's quite interesting because your work is aesthetically pleasing, and I see a lot of work in art galleries that's quite political and it's quite edgy. And I think your work is stuff that, as Sundari said, you know, you've got your jacket that's got printed face on there and the jeans. They're wearable as well as being aesthetically pleasing. I mean, is there a political undertone to it as well? Are you challenging some of those views through your work? I don't know. I've never asked you this before.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that you asked that because I think it's something I've been reflecting on a lot, because I think at first view, it is very beautiful and colourful and draws you in, but I think there's layers within that, within the storytelling, within the patterns, with that there's everything's symbolic, and I think that kind of comes from the fact that they have always been symbolic. There has always been stories told through this method, and I think sometimes it's like I'm not creating for like a Western lens, because I think that it has been overlooked and minimized quite a bit, and I think that's something that I'm like trying not to, you know, overthink in my work, that whether it fits what's expected and what's being created at the moment, and just staying kind of authentic to what I feel.
And I think your work it's not pandering to any Western ideals or anything like that. It still keeps that South Asian influence. I think it's appealing to all cultures. I can see the stories in your work as well. I think that's really nice. And you talk about stories and you said about going back to India. You know, you've been a few times, and it's really important for you to sort of connect to those things. Why is that? Why has that become important for you?
I think because like growing up, I didn't really, as I mentioned before, I didn't feel like I really belonged, and I think how understanding about my roots and like my family's journey and where they've come from and how that's kind of evolved and things have changed and how now we're living here, and that's, for me, understanding that story has been really like valuable to understand more about me, and I think wider as well, like looking at kind of the history of like the long history of like India and the UK and how that's kind of shaped today really, and I think that's what I've looked through within my own kind of work and helped me.
I wanted to explore that, you know, that beautiful rickshaw that you had. Tell me if I'm incorrect, but I understood that you created the rickshaw and other people added to it. Is that right? Or did you create the rickshaw? And I didn't. Tell us a little about that, if that's okay.
The rickshaw was, so there's two. There's a community one and there's one in the South Asia Gallery. But I was commissioned as like UK lead artist. So we worked collaboratively with a rickshaw painter from Bangladesh who kind of mentored us with the painting. And then I worked with like three young artists, two from UK and one from Bangladesh, and to kind of create the stories. So a lot of the stories are like about migration and about kind of like this parallel between kind of Manchester and South Asia, like through the architecture, through the shared history, like they've got like the colonial kind of architecture that still exists there, and
tell us a little about where people could come and see some of your permanent artworks then, and where they, you know, somebody like myself and other listeners could see your permanent works.
The work is that rickshaw is in it's permanently in the South Asia Gallery in Manchester Museum, and other works that I'm exhibiting throughout the year. It's usually if you just keep up to date on my social media, and I'll usually be posting when I've got like exhibitions and things like that.
So what's the next new thing that the concepts that you're kind of thinking about, or is it a secret? Okay, we'll be the first to know.
Well, I'm working on I've started integrating tech within my work recently, which is where the immersive side is coming through. So I'm really interested in how, people can become part of the story and they become part of the artwork, and using tech to kind of explore that. So that's kind of where my practice is at the moment. So I'm hoping to develop more pieces around that idea, but still it's about connecting with culture and stories that we don't see a lot of.
Do you work out of a studio?
Yeah, I've got my own studio space. So, and then, depending on how big the project is, then, sometimes I have to temporarily move.
You mentioned something about your rickshaw in Manchester and about the link with Manchester and India. And it's quite interesting because I've got family in Ludhiana in the Punjab, and I didn't realise that Ludhiana is twinned with Manchester, or it's classed as like India's Manchester or something, because Manchester and around there was like the cotton industry, manufacturing of material. Yeah, and Ludhiana is a big city in the Punjab, and it's where a lot of textiles and textile industries are. Your work I see as having a very strong female sort of element through it as well. And I mean, is that a conscious decision? Is that just because you're interested in portraying strong women? Because that's what I see through your work as well.
I think that's kind of a part of, because I think within my work I look at different layers of things. So like I'm looking at migration, but then I'm also looking at the female and the women, and I think I'm just anything that is. I think I'm just drawn to like those untold stories, and so it's just layers and layers of things. And I think my work is like that as well, with the layers and layers of patterns and the adornment and everything. All these layers come through. So it's also the layers of stories and like layers of linking to the layers of identity, because I think there's so much. It's not just one thing. It's like there's so many things to it.
And you've exhibited, and you're there at the exhibition. People are obviously coming to discuss things with you because you're the artist. What are some of the things that people are taking away that you really feel that they've engaged with your work?
So what's been quite amazing, I think there's been a point of connection, and what's been quite nice is it's not just been people from a South Asian background. Other communities have found a point of connection, whether that's through the story, through the colour, through the emotion of the piece. And I think from my work, it's organically happened, but it creates these spaces where people feel safe and like seen, and just they kind of, a lot of people do open up and share their own stories, which has been really beautiful. And I think maybe it comes from a place where I didn't feel like I belonged or felt seen. So maybe I think it's authentically quite happened, but I think that's a really nice aspect.
So I've been to an exhibition where you were at, and Sundari, what I can tell you is it's a lot of fun because we take a lot of selfies in front of the work, and it's quite nice to actually.
Of course you do.
Of course, it's going to happen, but it's also interesting to hear other people talking about your work while you're there as well. And then I've been, for example, the South Asia exhibition in Manchester. I was actually impressed with myself because when I walked in, I was like, that looks like a piece of work from Daya Bhatti. And everyone was like, oh, and then it was. I was like, I know this person. I think people were like, no, you don't. I was like, yes, I do know them. But it was interesting what they said about your work as well. So I think when you're not around and how people interact with your work, it's interesting to hear people talking about it. And I think your work is quite accessible. And I've heard other people from other communities talking about it as well, especially how beautiful it is. And the Sari, for example, because last year's South Asian Heritage Month theme was roots to roots. Really difficult to say, roots to routes. I'm going to say it in the American way. And I think, you had this tree painted on it, and it was like that sort of the roots and the heritage really came across. So that was really picked up by a lot of people. Other people used your image in their in their promotion of South Asian Heritage Month. You should contact them for royalties.
Yeah, I quite like that idea. I know it wasn't the Tree of Life, but when I looked at it, I was closely looking at it. Again, where did the Tree of Life come from, that concept? But it was beautiful, just lovely. It just flowed into the sari, the way you've exhibited it as well. It's very lovely. Now I know an artiste, you see. I'm very excited. I can sprout your name around everywhere.
You've got lots of nice artwork behind you, Sundari. I mean, I've just got boring books.
I do love art. I do love paintings, and I do love fashion and beautiful saris. Unfortunately, mine are all sewn in saris because I'm not very good at tying. If I did, they might fall apart.
Yeah, actually, keep your hand on that sari, Daya, because somebody might be snatching it. That's the thing.
I know. I'm looking at that. I was looking at the jacket. Those jeans look pretty nice. So I come to an exhibition and things are missing, don't look at me.
Well, make sure security's there, Sundari. We're gonna have to call extra security. So I think the thing is, I'm very interested in that whole thing of engagement and immersion. I know you do that anyway through your workshops. You do for South Asian Heritage Month at Wolverhampton Grand Theatre. You did a sari painting activity, so people could paint the sari. I didn't want to ruin it because everyone's work was so good. You did invite me to paint a panel, but I'm very competitive. So for me, I was like, my work's not going to look as good as everyone else's. So I just took a nice little video and a selfie, of course, Sundari. So don't be surprised I did take a selfie. But yeah, tech. So would that be like, as in, what is it? We wear the goggles and stuff, and you're immersed in it.
Yeah, so
I know you probably can't say too much because people will steal the idea.
With the tech, I'm more interested in kind of how it would enhance the experience of people interacting with the physical piece. So
right.
I'm not that it's not with like any goggles or anything. It's about actually being in that space and how the tech kind of creates this kind of a more of an immersive experience. Maybe that's through sound, touch, things like that.
Well, we look forward to the opening event, because Sundari and myself always love an opening event, somewhere where there's wine and food. It's been great to chat to you about your work, and I think for Sundari, who didn't know much about your work, but now you'll see it everywhere. And that's great that we're getting more South Asian exposure and people understanding that work. So what we like to do is we like to end with a quote, don't we, Sundari?
Yes, we do. So I know you prepared something earlier. What's inspired you? Yeah.
I wanted to end on more of like a personal kind of note, reflection. But I think it's just something that maybe I would want somebody to tell me when I was a bit younger. But I think just always dream big and stay authentic to yourself. And, there's no one like you, and I think that's your biggest strength. So I feel like just don't get caught up in trends, outside noises. I think when you create meaningfully and just be yourself, that resonates more deeply.
Thank you very much. I think that's ended with a beautiful note there.
Sundari, I don't know about you, but I think for us with this podcast, we had the same feeling, didn't we? We're like, what should we do? And, and we just thought we'll just go. It's just going to grow organically. And, to meet people like you and others and to have them on the show and to sort of showcase their work, I think it's been, and we get something out of this, don't we? So, yeah, I think being yourself is so important, because in the art world, people get influenced, or they feel they should fit into a certain mold, or they should do things that are popular. And actually just doing the work and doing what you enjoy is the best thing, isn't it?
Yeah, that makes your message and your artistry and your emotions shine through, I think. So thank you ever so much. It's been lovely.
No, thank you. Thank you. It's been really nice.
Yeah. And keep an inventory of all your products and your things that you've got, because Sundari will be after them. So don't worry, I've got a legal team involved.
Hey, Ranjit, you're supposed to be on my side, and I'll lend you the jacket.
I know where
and
she
the jeans.
lives. I know where she's got a lot of artwork in that house. If I see it there,
it'll be hanging here soon. I'm promoting it. She said, I'm sure she said yes.
Very lovely speaking to you, Daya. Thank you so much.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you so much for having me.
Shy and Chat.